For example, up here along the top center of your screen, we have the Select and Uniform Scale tool. If we left click on that, this will bring up a new icon, which is referred to as your 3D spinner. And so if we hit the Z key to frame in on this object, you'll see that we have 3 different tangent points that we can pull on, as well as if we keep our mouse here in the center of it, the entire center of it turns yellow. And if we hold down the left mouse button and drag it up and down along one of these axes, we can also stretch and pull the box out to manipulate it from its original shape. And so if we want it bigger, we just hover our mouse right here in the middle, hold down the left mouse button and scale the object up and down. Left mouse click along the top to pull it from the top to the bottom, up and down. And if we wanted it really small, we just left click and pull our mouse back, and now we get a really, really small box. Now, while you are also in scale mode, you'll notice that as soon as we click on another object, we're automatically still using that tool. And so, for example, we'll quickly go back and forth, grab this object, scale this guy up and down, move him around, grab this object, move him up and down. We're still using that scale tool. Now, next to our scale tool, we also have the Select and Rotate tool, the Move tool, and another one that's equally important, the Select Object tool. By left-clicking on any of those, this will switch back and forth between whether you want to select the object, move the object, rotate, and scale. And so, for example, when we click the Select and Move tool, this also brings up yet another spinner with a XYZ axis that allows us to actually move the object up and down in 3D space. We can move it along the X, the Y, or the Z. Now, just to the side of that, here we have our Rotate tool, which if I zoom in on it, you'll notice that this also allows us to manipulate in the X, Y, and the Z. This way or that, we just simply highlight one of the axes that we want to rotate this object on, and that will allow us to rotate it in 3D space. Now, if you do hover your mouse sort of in the middle of 2 options, whether it's this yellow line or rather this green line and the red line, you'll notice that you're able to sort of freely manipulate the object and move it around, not necessarily on the XYZ axes, just sort of freely spinning it around as you see fit. But if you want to isolate that so that it's perfectly up and down along the X, Y, and the Z, and so for example, if I zoom in on here, we can make sure that we rotate it exactly along the way that we intend along that axis. Now, one thing that is important is as you start playing with 3D geometry and you start manipulating it, you may realize that you made a mistake. Maybe you want to get that back to the way that it was without having to start over by making a brand new box. And so to do that, you're going to want to take advantage of the Undo key. It's up here in the top left. It looks like an arrow pointed to the left. It also, just like most standard applications in Windows, if you hit the Control-Z button, that will actually undo the last operations that you had. So we can undo this box back to its original state. And when we're done rotating it, we can just left-click anywhere out here in the viewport to get out of that object selection. Now, if we switch back to Select Object mode, we can grab this guy. And so, for example, we could scale it. We can move it. Now, you'll notice that I'm not clicking on these icons up top. That's because I'm using the default hotkeys for Move, Rotate, and Scale. And those hotkeys are W, E, and R. W for Move, E for Rotate, and R for Scale. You're going to want to get into a good habit of quickly toggling back and forth between these tools using the hotkeys. This will definitely speed up your workflow, as you'll find that Move, Rotate, and Scale is probably the majority of what you'll be doing here inside of 3ds Max. So being able to quickly go in and make adjustments to this object using those hotkeys is ideal to quickly creating the shape that you are looking for and get you the results that you want.